One of the most extraordinary programs in the history of the University of British Columbia began in the spring of 1921, when a small group of students led by World War I British Army veterans Eric Grenville Jones and Cyril Jones held a meeting to establish the foundations of what became the UBC Rowing Club. UBC student crews began to train at the Vancouver Rowing Club in the fall of that year in preparation for their first official competition, which took place in Victoria Harbour on January 6, 1922. It was there that students Cyril Jones, Roy McLaren, William Banfield, and Wells Coates raced against a crew from the James Bay Athletic Association. The first inter-university competition took place in 1925 against the University of Washington, setting the stage for annual regattas against Washington and Oregon State. But it was in 1932 that rowing gained lasting prominence in the varsity sport portfolio when a 21-year-old named Ned Pratt became the first UBC student to win an Olympic medal, a bronze in double sculls. Pratt's medal drew immediate attention from prominent community members and alumni who donated money to purchase rowing shells and to establish a boathouse on the Fraser River. Although the outbreak of World War II brought much student activity to a halt, the post-war years saw the emergence of a new era, with the UBC Rowing Club moving from the Fraser River to the Vancouver Rowing Clubhouse at Cole Harbour. Concurrently, Vancouver businessman Victor Spencer purchased the first Pocock 8, and in 1950, fellow VRC member Frank Reed was appointed as coach of the UBC VRC crews.
Under the eyes of Coach Frank Reed, it drills, 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 mile after mile, hour after hour.
I was very fortunate to be there at that time and place when Frank Reed was there. And Frank had a reputation of being tough and hard and all the rest of it. But the big thing about Frank was that he saw his vision was very high. He wanted his crews to be the best in the world. And at that time in Vancouver, I'm not sure there was a lot of aspiration that way.
Under the grueling training regimen of Reed, international success ultimately followed, beginning in 1954, when a UBC 8 defeated the favored British crew to win gold medals at the British Empire Games. With Vancouver serving as host city, the historic win was witnessed by several thousand hometown spectators and by dignitaries from throughout the Commonwealth, including the Duke of Edinburgh.
Here on the Vedder, the British were favored, and Prince Philip had come to formalize this triumph. He had not reckoned on this University of British Columbia crew, embarked on a whole new era of rowing in British Columbia and in Canada.
In the wake of the victory, Prince Philip invited the UBC crew to compete at the prestigious Royal Henley Regatta in 1955, where they lost narrowly to a crew from the University of Pennsylvania. Less than a year later, UBC crews were dominant at the Canadian Championships, earning the right to represent their university and all of Canada at the 1956 Olympic Games.
Frank, how are the boys bearing up?
It's been a very rigorous and long drawn-out training program, but I think the honor of representing Canada at the Olympics more than compensates for the sacrifices and the self-discipline that has made it possible.
The performance of UBC's crews at the 1956 Melbourne Olympics was instantly and indelibly etched into Canadian sport history, with not one, but two Olympic podium finishes occurring on the same day, a gold for the 4 and a silver for the 8.
This 1956 Olympic moment proved to be the highlight of UBC history. When we look back, this was probably the most important achievement UBC teams have accomplished.
This is Canada's first Olympic gold medal ever for rowing, and congratulations must go to the outstanding crew, students of the University of British Columbia.
Under Frank Reed, UBC's 4 and 8 returned to the 1960 Olympic Games in Rome, with the 8 winning silver medals in a tight race with the German crew.
For a silver medal, the second time in 2 straight Olympics that they have won the silver medal.
I think we had the best race that boat ever had in the finals of the Olympics. And on that day, the Germans beat us. but they were a very excellent crew. That's the Carl Adams crew from northern Germany. And we were right alongside of them.
Frank Reed retired after the 1960 Games, but UBC rowers added to the program's Olympic legacy in 1964 in Tokyo, highlighted by Roger Jackson and George Hungerford winning gold in the pairs event.
The gold medal race was fantastic. Our strategy was to just see how well we could do in the first quarter of the race. We knew we were fast. We had won the heat in the fastest time, so we knew going in there we had what it took. So the last third of the race, it was sheer hell, but we had a boat that was really moving, and Roger and I really worked together. It was an incredible team effort that the two of us really did. We performed magic out there.
The thing about the UBC crew at that time that really inspired me is they didn't want to just be the best on the West Coast, didn't want to be just the best in Canada. They wanted to be the best in the world.
Under coaches like Glenn Mervyn, Laurie West, Al Morrow, Boris and Peter Clavora, and with the support of many others, UBC produced numerous international competitors. But while Canada's men's crews competed at the '72 Olympics in Munich, there were very few opportunities for female rowers anywhere in Canada. However, participation began to increase at Canadian universities, including UBC, where a determined group of students banded together at the Vancouver Rowing Club under the coaching of a UBC staff member named Els Mole. Women's rowing officially became a varsity sport in September of 1976 under the coaching of men's team alumnus and 1972 Olympian Glenn Battersby.
There were a number of us who knew about rowing, and also that there had been women racing for Canada in that previous summer. There were actually about 10 women, and we went down to the Vancouver Rowing Club, and we had a meeting, and we were advised to go into the barge, which was this massive flat boat with these ancient oars with handles that our hands could barely fit around, and we had our first practice.
Just weeks before the women's varsity program was formalized, 5 of the students who had previously competed as members of VRC represented Canada at the 1976 Montreal Olympic Games. In so doing, future generations of young female student athletes were inspired in large measure by the pioneering efforts of Tricia Smith, Joy Farah, Cheryl Howard, Susan Antoft, and Alona Smith.
It was just by chance that I started rowing. I was in high school, I was out at UBC using the library, and I ran into a friend of mine who was part of the program at UBC VRC, and she said, you've got to try this, so much fun. When I got on the boat, I loved it from day one, and I never really looked back. It was a sport that I was built for, really, and I just loved being on the water.
The evolution of UBC rowing was altered in the early 1980s when Rowing Canada centralized its national teams, in Victoria for men and in London, Ontario for women. As a result, UBC began to lose elite prospects to the universities of Victoria and Western Ontario. Even so, the program continued to offer unique opportunities to UBC students, from those who simply wanted to try a new sport to those who would compete internationally, including Olympic gold medalists Mike Rasher, Pat Turner, and Paul Steele. International competitors on the women's side included Brenda Taylor, Megan Delahunty, Larissa Biesenthal, and a first-year student from Trail, BC named Kathleen Heddle, who went on to become one of the most accomplished competitors in Canadian rowing history. But in spite of the many highlights, a serious challenge became apparent in the mid-1990s, and one that put the viability of the entire program at risk.
When I took over the program, I'd seen it move from VRC to Burnaby to False Creek, and this was all we had left. We were down at False Creek. There was a couple of broken boats on broken stretchers, and that sort of defined the program. The sustainability of the program was really in question, And it seemed to be job number one was to address that, and the only way to do that was to address the needs of a new facility.
A new facility, one that could be owned and operated by the UBC Rowing program, and that would enable it to continue its ascent into the upper echelons of university rowing worldwide. But that would take outside help, and it came at the dawn of a new millennium from a committed group of alumni.
Well, we formed this little bunch, and with the backing of UBC, and then what happened was George Hungerford and Jane Hungerford, who were really good at fundraising, they knew where the money was buried in Vancouver. And so they came on board, and that sort of gelled, and we decided we better get a name for this group. And we called ourselves the Gold for Life Committee because that was our goal.
The Gold for Life group's aspirations to construct a boathouse moved closer to reality when the city of Richmond agreed to provide a location on the Fraser River. That was followed by a commitment from St. George's School to enter a partnership. Ultimately, thanks in large part to a bequeathment from the estate of alumnus John Leckie, along with generous contributions from other alumni, the John M.S. Leckie UBC Boathouse officially opened on September 30th, 2006.
It was not easy. It was a long process. It really felt like a tremendous team effort involving a lot of different players over a long period of time. So it was just so satisfying to see that happen.
Since its opening, the boathouse has been home for UBC rowers as well as a source of annual revenue for their participation in important annual regattas, including the Brown Cup and the Canadian University Championships, which began in 1995 and signaled UBC's evolution from a high-performance club program to a dominant varsity sport, both on campus and across the country.
The construction of this facility, we've been able to create a whole new atmosphere, a whole new culture, a whole new level of excitement for the program. It shows that the athletes feel like the UBC Boathouse is their home. They come here ready to train every day. They have access to this great facility, to change rooms, to beautiful boat bays and equipment downstairs. We've really been able to add a whole new level of efficiency to the time that they spend here, which has really paid dividends in terms of our performance.
In spite of facility and training site challenges before the construction of the boathouse, UBC still produced national university champions and international competitors, most notably Kyle Hamilton and Ben Rutledge, who won gold medals in the 8 at the 2008 Games in Beijing. And with each passing year, thanks to superb coaching and the support of alumni, UBC's program continues to produce a steady flow of national university champions and prospects for Canada's national teams.
During my time as an athlete, it was amazing how little we had to worry about basically the expenses of rowing, which is a very expensive sport. The boats, the boathouse, the travel. Without the support of our alumni, it was clear that most of us wouldn't be able to afford rowing just because of the nature of the sport. So to be able to just focus on your fitness and rowing and balancing your course load with your training program, the generosity of our donors absolutely leads directly to the results of our school and athletes who go beyond rowing for UBC and end up rowing for Canada.
The question some people might be asking is, where do we go from here? We've had tremendous success, but we need to keep moving forward. The next level for our program is to reconnect with our international successes that we've had in the past, and now is the time to do that. We've built the consistency in the way that we're developing athletes and recruiting athletes, and we've got to provide them with the goals to keep moving forward. And the next level for us is success again at the international level with our collegiate athletes.
We're at a really important point of inflection in the program, and there's a great future ahead. And so now is the time to set a new direction for where the program wants to be in the future. And really at the high level, what that is being top 12 internationally in terms of the ranking. I think it inspires people to greatness. I think it helps with recruiting. It helps with the stature of the program, and all of those things, the way I look at it, ultimately achieve the objective of delivering a great experience for rowers and actually providing them with some of the foundational elements that they can take forward in their lives.
Our athletes leave here, they know a lot about teamwork, they know a lot about leadership, they know a lot about persistence, and they know a lot about focus. And I mean, if they're strong academically, I mean, now they've got a skill set that is going to really serve them incredibly well.
For sure developed me as a person, and all the things you learn through rowing, and team and respect and hard work and diligence.
A century after the foundation of the UBC Rowing Club, the vision for the future is one in which UBC becomes a destination for even greater numbers of extraordinary student athletes from across Canada and beyond, whose skill and commitment will continue the ascent to the world's highest echelon of university rowing, and who as alumni will continue to serve as leaders across a vast spectrum of endeavor, in the same manner and in the same spirit as those who went before.
Let's really focus here on not rowing the blade out of the water. Make sure you're actually moving the handle down to get it out, okay? We don't want to be pulling the handle down to your lap. Watch the lock up with the catcher. Make sure you're moving the blade constantly down to the water. The blade moving down to the water.